and VP. Both teams need to outdo what they did last major and make it to playoffs. The way to do so is start off Swiss strong. Let's get into it. Our second game here on the alternate stream begins now.
Game 1 brought to you by Progressive. First match for both these teams in the Swiss, and a reminder, you want to get those 3 wins, ideally 4. You want to be on the upper side of the bracket for playoffs. How do you stand up against APAC? Dignitas have put punches into K-Corp, into EU, the quote best region. But how do they fare against that? And it's Sosa, of course, leading that charge, keeping the ball low. But Dignitas going to try and break their way out. VP already starting to surround them. Is now Sphinx in the air. Catalysm in front of the box, trying to join forces in 50 after seeing Dignitas try to disrupt.
Well, you can already see it. VP are not backing down from a challenge here. They might recognize that they come into this one the underdogs. They are not playing like it in the face of their opponent, staying aggressive and making some good saves on the other end. Sosa, solid touch there. Will keep that one out of net. Where he is going to try again, but Sphinx prepared to get the touch off the backboard. Go for a follow-up and 50 in the corner, but all it does is pinch out to Sosa, who again has to protect that backboard. A lot of heavy touches going against that Virtus.pro net, but thus far they have not buckled under the pressure and finally find a way to break out.
And Dignitas are a team that play really spaced out from the ball, but who cares when they can unite the way like that? The demo that almost opened things up for Appjack. And look what he's able to do into the net. The fake, the drop from Stizzy, going for the bump. The follow-up not there. Appjack is on the retreat.
Stizzy's probably looking at that one like, hey, that's my bad, brother. I get it. Yeah, you demoed everybody. You left me more or less an open net, and I just couldn't get the pinch on target or really get the touch at all. Unfortunately, no contact found there, and instead now, chance for VP. Pre-jumping Sphinx is a bold decision, especially when the pass doesn't actually contact with him, but they're not going to get punished, at least not quite yet, as Sosa, back in time, gets a wheel in the way and prevents a shot on target. Appjack, good midfield patrol. We're going to see a lot of that from him in this series as well as throughout the day. We don't see any goals thus far. 100 seconds gone. VP looking for the skim as Sosa tries to fire one on target, but still nothing found.
Stizzy is that young blood. Of course, I hype him up. He gets demoed, but he was the guy that made magic happen for Dignitas when going up against Vitality, making 3 world champions look silly. But Dignitas have Appjack leading. Look what he's able to do. Stizzy buys time, and he just gets a free net like that.
Stizzy said, I get it. The second time you give me this opportunity, I will not miss. And not only will he not miss, we'll get a pretty nice flick off the ceiling. Beautiful shot here as Appjack just clears the lane for Stizzy. And finally, the first goal of this series is found. Dignitas, it took them 2 minutes, but they are on the board.
Dignitas works so beautifully together, and you can't underestimate what Jorius can do when he builds momentum. Sphinx with the tumble, no, the high touch. Too many defenders in his path, and VP hope to collect. A bouncer, though, that's too high for Sosa to read, and Sphinx keeps the midfield occupied, so VP will be chasing that equalizer, but they need to be chasing boost. 2 of them running on empty, and Dignitas are stealing everything, and that is just the impact of someone like Appjack.
Yeah, it just kind of feels like Appjack right now controlling this pitch, whether through offense, defense, physicality, or just good pre-jumps. He's all across this pitch in the most meaningful of ways. On the other side of things, unfortunately, I think you called this one perfectly going into this one. It has been the Sphinx and Sosa show thus far. Catalysm is getting dusted to balls like this repeatedly. His air dribbles, his just aerials in general just haven't been of the caliber we are expecting. Meanwhile, Sphinx is going for double resets. So, again, it's 2/3 of the puzzle figured out here for VP. They need to start getting Catalysm more involved in these plays and more lively. Sosa, the 3rd or 4th stop on the line in a breakaway play. He has been instrumental to their defense so far.
Oh, Appjack turning around the play. Great 50 by Sosa, and that is a risky one as the last one back. And Jorius trying to buy time. Catalysm clears. VP go forward, and now Stizzy could have an open field, but Sphinx is always in Dignitas' path. I like that disruption. You don't want Dignitas with time on the ball. But it's still, speaking of time, 90 seconds. And Stizzy needs a good first touch. He just gets bumped off of it. So Appjack has to take over.
And unfortunately, he's not going to be able to get much further than midfield. Good challenge there, and low boost for Appjack means it's still going to be a defensive stand here for Dignitas. Sphinx first reset, can't even get around Jorius, and unfortunately the demo at midfield is going to make Catalysm think twice. He's just going to try and contain this one, but it's not going to be enough. Sosa now has to contend with Jorius. He's going to pop this one awkwardly so Sphinx can take over. Sphinx, you've been going for a lot of resets. He may be going to hit one on target. Not quite yet. He doesn't even get the opportunity, as despite the demos, no shot found. Catalysm straight to the ceiling, and Sosa now to take over. He's gonna air dribble this one. Look for the bump. Can't get any contact with Stizzy, and try as they might, VP, a lot of opportunities here. Nothing hitting the back of the net thus far.
Yeah, VP just haven't been able to feed the ball to Catalysm, who's been waiting in the box and with low boost. So when push comes to shove, it's hard to salvage that. And I think Dignitas recognized that and deny every pass within that box. So Dignitas did their homework, but with less than 30 seconds, can they hold on to this lead? It's quite minuscule. Sosa did just get the 100, is gonna take this ball to the backboard. Double command, a shot for Catalysm, and Abjack with a huge save. And now it's Dignitas keeping their heads above water now for the last 10 seconds. VP keep themselves in the blue end. But what can Sosa do? He just hesitated, wanted to go for the safe play on the back as Catalysm launches it, but no one can keep the rally going for VP. So Dignitas take game one.
To take game one, it's in narrow fashion.
Those air dribbles, and as soon as he's off the ball, he's tackling in the net. So Dignitas are just very versatile with what they can do on offense.
Well, let's see if they can do it again here. VP, not exactly the start that they wanted. 0 goals scored through 5 minutes of play. Let's see if Sphinx can change that up real quickly. No, instead, Stizzy, great clear out, and actually going to find Abjack, and he's going to find yet another defense caught off guard. That's not exactly the play that I was expecting, and definitely not the way VP wanted to start off this game.
I think Sosa just apologized on the camera. He looked like he was driving all the way back, thought he had a chance at the 50, was too late, got beat, and he knew he made a mistake in that moment. And Sosa's been trying to find the balance between playing a safe third and being the one who challenges more in the midfield to possibly catch Dignitas off guard. And how about this? Catalysm with a good carry, but look at this strike back from Stizzy. What an arrow!
Oh, that's a great shot. I don't want to take anything away from it, but it's literally the same goal twice in about 10 seconds. Again, Dignitas just recognized VP pushing a bit too far up. They're so eager for a goal that they forget you also have to play defense. I gotta say, this is a bit of a weird one here. I feel like usually we're talking about Dignitas as the three-headed Hydra, where just all three players are clicking. Jorius is just on vacation right now, man. Feet kicking up, he's just not having to do much. It's been all Stizzy and Abjack here, as every goal and assist has been the two of them, and he's barely even having to play defense. Abjack's just kind of waiting there like, this shot's not going on target. I know it. I'll just wait for my save.
Oh. Okay, that touch scared me though. We were like, well, we don't need Jorius to do anything. And you think about the quarterfinals, he was involved in 2.5 goals a game. So he's a dagger. He's a weapon for Dignitas when they need him to show up. But unfortunately, Sphinx here is not going to get under that ball, get towards the ceiling to dodge that 50. Catalysm shooting for the fences and just gets a dunk on him.
That's more what I'm looking for. Catalysm was critical of your aerials in game one. Game two, I cannot say the same. That is a perfect first touch as he keeps it low, keeps it close to him, forces an awkward challenge out of Stizzy on the line, and then just takes it underneath them. That's how VP need to play in the face of their opponents, staying confident in their abilities and continuing to put shots on target when they have an awkward defense from Dignitas. A lot easier said than done. I will admit that, but first step here has already been completed. If they can keep this going, we can have a competitive second game.
I just love the recovery, especially from Catalysm, to approach that 50 from the low side and get that dunk opportunity. And he's already surprising me a lot in this game too. VP will be trailing. Look at Catalysm chase people around too, making Dignitas uncomfortable, giving them a taste of their own medicine. Jorius, I like that pop-up as soon as he saw the challenge. Here's a delayed shot from Stizzy. Great save by Sphinx. And Abjack goes for the rally, the rebound. Dignitas are now on the back foot, but they return for more. Abjack from the midfield crashes into Sosa. He's anchored. He's buried 6 feet under. And VP are just protecting the net as best as they can, as they have to just march like an army to get through Dignitas.
They're doing a good job, though, not buckling underneath the pressure. They are finding these breakaway plays occasionally and making good saves where necessary. I have to think back to that Stizzy one where he just kind of shot it straight at Sphinx, and Sphinx barely flinched. Oh! Blinking, you might miss this one, though. Jorius, the perfect read off the waterfall off the backboard. This is beautiful.
What a pass! Oh, just an unfortunate misread on the backboard, but when Dignitas bring that speed, they're not going to give you a lot of time to think. At least VP have a lot of time to work with. And how about some forgive this. VP have been working on these kickoffs in APAC. It's gotten better and better. And how about that fake right to Catalysm to the back of the net?
That's a perfectly executed fake, and it's a great way to keep your team in this game. A little bit of trickery. Make Dignitas think twice on these approaches, on these kickoffs. And they are, because there's another fake. This time, though, Catalysm, yeah, I don't know if you're going to be able to do all too much with that one. And Jorius is going to call your bluff. He's even going to go for the reset in front of net, but is not going to be able to find it. Sosa trying to find this one around Appjack. Appjack will just bump him off the ball. Catalysm, long ball downfield, and Jordy is in the way. And now that midfield presence to Dignitas starting to creep up and cause some problems for VP. Although they make the first save, can they make another? Stizzy off the backboard, looking for the triple or the pass down. Appjack just not there in time.
Jorius as a third steps up from the midfield, and the offense, it continues to burn, but will a scorch through VP. Sphinx with the pop-up, denying that possession from Appjack, pops out to Sosa, who's a little too far behind, and Dignitas surround, they divide and they conquer. And with less than 2 minutes, Dignitas could be going to series point very soon. Catalysm, man, he's showing up, and he was just a rocket towards that defense. But VP still need to get an offense that's more lethal.
This has very much been the game of, hey, the guys that we called out in the last game are stepping up and making a difference. Jordy is a massive impact in this game, both at midfield and in the offensive third. And Catalysm, the same idea, but on the other end. Both these players are starting to show up. All 3 players for both teams starting to show up. So I think we're really starting to get into the meat and potatoes of this series. However, Virtus.pro, to see this series extend, I would recommend they take a game here. 2-0 for Dignitas means they've got not only a safety net, but a lot of room to breathe. And if you're Virtus.pro, you want to get yourself into this series as quickly as possible. And with only 1 goal down, this is probably going to be one of your best opportunities.
Yeah, you're just not going to catch Dignitas with an open net. There's always 2 back because they trust each other. They know when to retreat and to go for the best opportunity, not any opportunity. Double commit from VP, salvage from Sphinx. Sosa as well does not have any boost. And this is, again, Appjack. If he's not in the play, he's in your head and also getting your boost. 41 seconds, though, and VP are looking more dangerous, but they still need a clear. And it's Sphinx that gets beat by Appjack, and he won't get the possession he was hoping for.
They're trying over and over to beat out these midfield challenges. The problem is that the more they do this, the less boost they have and the less coordinated their defense will be. Great example is Jorius recognizes, oh, Catalysm's last back? Let me just remove him from the play.
What a tackle! Just shoved him in the locker, took his lunch money, and that feels like the nail in the coffin. Dignitas have so many options off the ball, taking boosts, bumping, chasing. VP have been able to stick in the game for as long as they have, always keeping it within 1 goal territory, which says a lot to the talent they bring in match 1, and kind of a fuck what is going on? Sosa very close, he gets out of the net, and it's right there, and Sphinx hesitates.
How on earth, VP? You're not going to get better chances than that. Granted, it's the end of the game where you're already down by 2 goals. Even if you had scored that, it really wouldn't have made much of a difference. But one of these has to hit the back of the net. It will not. Dignitas 2-0 up on the series. Involved in that last game is every single one of them has at least a goal, and I'm going to say technically an assist, as Jorius does not get one, but at least he gets the bump, which I'm going to count as an assist in my head. This is the last chance. Virtus.pro in the battle of VPs. You have got to show up. You've got 5 minutes on the clock just to keep this series alive.
And just an update on the A stream. Fury are up 2-0 against Wildcard, the OCE main representatives, but a similar vein to how this story is going. A 1-0 for Furia, and it's that slow start, but eventually scaling up the same way Dignitas did in Game 2. But VP, what do they have up their sleeve? They know Dignitas like to play spaced out. Look at Appjack be a bully on the back end, about to collide into Catalysm, as VP are just scrambling just to make contact with the ball.
Whoa, Jorius, that's a great touch off the ceiling. Unfortunately, Virtus.pro back in time for some defense. Maybe some offense of their own. Sphinx, great challenge, but Jordy is prepared again. That midfield presence of Dignitas just feels impenetrable at times. Catalysm, now trying to see if maybe him by himself can do enough. No pass out center, Jordy's in the way. Sphinx, great prediction to be there at the right place, right time, and I like the idea from Sosa. The execution, though, just a bit off the mark. He bumps into Sphinx as he tries to take the pass from him, and as a result, the shot just doesn't have enough power. This one might not need the power if the defense is gone, but Catalysm back in time and ready for a pass. Sphinx up in the air for this one, looking for the redirect center. Can't find it off the backboard, and so far, so good for both teams. It seems a little bit calmer here as we start off the third game.
And you're seeing a lot more demos come out from both sides, too. Even Catalysm is trying to do an Appjack and do his own harassment in the back. It's the exception is Dignitas are better at dodging, and his Catalysm may have hold cold there. I'm going to need to zoom in, but it's not looking good. Either way, Dignitas up first.
I mean, that's a dope angle. That's pretty cool. That's a great shot. Unfortunately, it's against your own net, so it's not really going to count for all too much. You can see it. It's just smiles on the other side, and probably not as many smiles on the side of VP. It's going to put them down again. Third game in a row in which they are not going to start off on the right foot. Maybe Sphinx can return them there. Unfortunately, he's challenged on the ceiling, and the offense is thwarted.
Well, Sphinx doesn't get the touch he was hoping for, but he'll get his other chance again. Second touch, a little high. Sosa for the completion. Front blocker for Dignitas makes the save. His Appjack goes up high, bumped off, and has no boost. His Catalysm's going to try and double it out of his net this time. And it's Dignitas that just are hunting, searching. And there's blood in the water as VP are just doing everything they can to get this midfield through. And it's Dignitas back on offense.
It just kind of feels like VP right now are just hanging in there, man. I think they played this game pretty well at the start, but as the pressure started to set in and the reality of what's at hand is set in, they're about to go down 3-0. They're about to not take a game in their first series of Swiss. They are not going to start off strong as they probably would have hoped for, and that pressure can really get to a team. I'm not saying that it necessarily has quite yet, but it's starting to show itself through the cracks here or there. Maybe this can change that, but no. Poor challenge out of Sosa, and already Stizzy causing problems on the other end. He's going to continue to bump against Catalysm, and Appjack will take over off the backboard. This one's open, and Appjack will not miss.
Man, what can Appjack not do? He is just such a star for this team, and now you get to see what he can do on the ball this time. Nose down and in. Tough angle to cut, and a tough one for VP to deal with. But you never know what they can do on kickoffs, too. VP have had some forgiveness, and even just look at that. Goes towards the post. Sosa doesn't win the 50, and Sphinx can't get behind the ball.
Unfortunately, it kind of feels like those kickoffs might be the only place that we're seeing success for Virtus.pro right now. They're, again, getting those opportunities on offense, but this is the difference in the shot caliber. Dignitas are getting anything they want, going anywhere they want, with the power and fury of Zeus behind it.
Look how close Jorius was, too, and kind of the fakes as Dignitas don't continue contact with the ball. It drops, and Dignitas play close enough, starting to really suffocate VP as they sense how low their boost is, and Appjack can communicate that, too, and you'll just be able to notice it out of VP, how much slower they are. But for them to be able to keep up the pace with one of EU's best, I think VP overall are still impressing me, but with 90 seconds, they're going to impress a lot of people if they can come back into this.
Unfortunately for them, it feels like as good of a performance as this is, it's just it's going up against a team that is so capable that if you don't play to 110%, even your 100% is not going to be enough. And that's what we're seeing right here and now. As it was 70 seconds ago, this has been domination from Dignitas so far. That is 8 goals to only 2 throughout the series. Let's make it 9. That's Stizzy in front of the net. That's 4-0. That's Dignitas putting the nail in the coffin.
I just like the way that Stizzy positions for this. By the way, beautiful pass from Appjack through the corner. In case there was any diving save, you have Stizzy just front and center and also on the top of the ball. So if it was a low 50, any 50, that was going in or it was going to stall in front of the net. So Dignitas like to think 5 steps ahead, and VP are about to be 5 steps behind in terms of Swiss. But you don't want to go out with a big old donut. You don't want 0 goals in the last game of the series. But VP, I think this is a good warm-up too to get Sphinx especially back for the next match. At least I've been really impressed with what Catalysm's been able to do, but Dignitas are looking very fluid, very clean, especially to take this in a sweep.
Yeah, it definitely feels as if Virtus.pro got better as the series got on, but the problem is so did Dignitas. So as much as I think that the criticisms we had of Catalysm in Game 1 are no longer relevant, as he has stepped up a tremendous lead, all three of Dignitas' players have stepped up. This, actually no, he's already done so. This is the second game in a row in which all three players of Dignitas have scored at least a goal, and they're going to continue on with the tally. I said Jordy's, I wasn't sure if he had scored a goal. Now he scored 2, and it's 5-0.
Just so much solo play potential, a lot of chemistry within Dignitas, stuff off the ball you got to worry about, and it's just too many problems, too many fires in the kitchen, not enough. Too many cooks, and that's what Dignitas is doing. They're cooking globally too. All eyes are on Dignitas, and they bring the heat in their first match, and it's a donut into a breadstick, and none other than Catalysm, who's looking on fire for the first match of LAN.
Unfortunately, he's the only one on fire. After we talked about Sphinx and Sosa's performance in the first game, since then, neither one of them got even a single goal. Sphinx continued to get some assists, but it's Catalysm, all 3 goals for the team throughout this series, and it's going to end that way. Dignitas, a 3-0 sweep over Virtus.pro here in our first round.